Welcome back live at Drew's House, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Another edition. Hope you're all doing well out there as I feel spring coming. I can feel it. I think we're getting through these final snowstorms. Our producer, again, today, running the whole show. There's nobody else here. Sarah Blackstone. She's a one-person crew today, directing everything, and anybody who comes through the door. Quick shout-out right off the top to her. And now we'll get to my guest, who, quite frankly, I just see far too much of. Jeff Brown is in the house, the morning anchor for WBZ News Radio. How are you, Jeff?
Good. Thank you. This is a surprise invitation for me.
I can't believe this is your first time in this building.
It is the first time.
We had you on a pandemic version.
Yeah, that's right. And it was not a very smooth sail.
Yeah,
shall we
but
say.
you were battling the Wi-Fi. You
That's
were like
right.
the
yeah. But this is good. This is I'm impressed. This is nice.
Yeah,
good for
it's
you.
good. Yeah, and glad you feel
You
at
clean
home.
up nice.
We try to do what we do. I have very little to do with it. I just talk to people. Sarah makes everything. She should work out well here.
Excellent.
So what are you doing here?
When we figure it out, we'll let everybody know.
It's ironically we both had vet appointments today for our dogs.
Yeah. It's the whole thing is just a mess. I mean, the problem with me is I don't pay enough attention to my wife, and she doesn't listen to me.
We're going to begin right with that, are we?
Yeah, okay, we just get it out of the way, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So, I will say that this is probably more my fault than anything else.
I would think most people would agree with that. Yeah. Recently retired. Congratulations, Mrs. B.
Mrs. B, recently retired. She's she did all the right things. I mean, they talk about doing, you got to save this and you got to do that and then you got to retire. So she worked for 35 years the same job and just decided she couldn't take it anymore.
Yes.
And she was done. Fun fact.
Yeah.
She was bored early on. She decided to get a job. 2 days. Done.
The first job that was not her.
She took the job. She worked for 2 days. She's done.
And then she found the 35-year-old job.
No, then she quit.
On the back end.
This is on the back end.
Oh, she took a job after just retiring?
She took a job after retiring.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She went to work for 2 days and said, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, my goodness. Can I ask? What was the new job?
She was working at an accounting firm someplace.
Just to stay busy?
I think. I mean, again, but just to stay busy, right? Yeah. And so she got back into that environment. She said, I don't know what I was thinking. And that was it.
Are you kind of like that? I get the impression you genuinely love your job.
Well, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do like my job.
Like, would you? I think you'll probably do it. Are you going to be like Bob Dylan? You're going to do it till.
Well, I don't know. I mean, but because until she started talking to me, and she's, I mean, we're in our 50s, and so she was way ahead of the game in terms of retirement. But until that came up, I never really gave it a thought.
Yeah. But
this job that I'm doing right now is a job that I've thought about doing since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really. I mean, that's how weird this business is.
I bet you didn't think you're going to be doing it with me.
I did. No, I had no idea.
Jeff Brown.
On second thought,
Jeff has to get. So Jeff is on. Actually, Steve Dennis. I know you watched the show the other day.
Yeah.
There was a comment made about you.
Yep.
He's a big fan of yours.
It's my favorite part of the show.
It was your favorite part of the show. Yeah. And Steve had mentioned. Now he's on for the whole morning, and he goes, "That's all live." I said, "It is." Would you believe it? You ever get sick and tired of being live for 4 straight hours?
I'm scripted, so. I think there is a point that I do find myself annoying, so I can't even imagine. Yeah. But no, I mean it's a different. I mean this whole industry, radio, is so much different than it used to be.
Yeah.
Because it used. I mean, obviously, people's consumption of media has changed.
Yes.
And so it's not as intrusive and not as prominent as a position that it once was. But I think that the statistics still show that like 90% of people listen to the radio at some point in time during the week. Yeah, that's incredible.
It's good news for our business.
That is good news.
Who was the? Did you? I don't know if I've ever asked you that question. Who was like your radio kind of mentor? Was there somebody who really taught you how to be good?
No, I knew this. I knew you were going to ask this question. And I was trying to, but I
didn't know I was going to ask this question.
No, I mean, I think I will tell you that that even to this day, when I'm writing a news story or delivering a news story, I often think how Gary LaPierre, who was in this position at WBZ for decades, how he would handle something like that.
Yeah.
And I often think of that, and I would say he's probably the closest that I would call, having had an opportunity to actually work with him at a point in time, he's probably the closest that I would say would be a mentor.
And I mean, he was just there for that was the soundtrack.
And that was right. And so so if there was anybody to learn from, that was the guy to do it.
So I mean, because you got and you were in different roles too. You have a very strange radio career.
I do. It's been a weird role.
You did traffic, then you became a boss over at the traffic center.
Yeah, I was with. That's when I worked with Gary. Was when he was doing the news in the morning at BZ, and I was doing traffic in the morning at BZ, and that was early 90s.
Yeah. How many years did you do that with him?
Like 2 or 3. Yeah. Because from there, I decided that management was going to be my thing.
Yeah. Big mistake. You didn't love it.
It paid well.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's when you have, young kids at home and you have a family and you're working in a business that you love. You gotta do what's going to pay the bills. But I did that for like 20 years until they kindly asked me to leave. And then in this weird world of radio, the people who were downsizing decided, the same people, that they needed me as a newscaster. So our same company hired me back, like several months later.
And now you're happier than ever.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Did you ever do the chopper?
I did.
That seems I would never do that. That's scary.
Well, it's unsettling because when you're in the air and the pilot, who you can communicate with him on headsets, he'll suddenly say, "Hold on," and
like turbulence.
Because you're going to bank to the left or you're going to bank to the right, and he's just like, "Hold on a second," and you're going from 600 feet to 300 feet in the blink of an eye. And but once you get used to how the thing moves, it's kind of like being in a flying Volkswagen. That once you understand that you're going to be moving up and down and you're going to go left and right, and it's okay. It's not comfortable. I mean, I don't know how people do it on a daily basis. I mean, Kristen Eck,
we love Kristen Eck,
does it for 4 hours a day.
She's great. She's great. It's there's nobody. I mean, she's just funny and obviously comfortable.
Very. And I had a chance to work with her for several years at Traffic. Very dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
Laurie Grandy and I, who, by the way, I will tell you that anybody who mentions that they listen to me in the morning, the first thing they say is, "I love that traffic lady." Yeah, she's great. I said, "Laurie, yeah, she is exactly the same on the air that she is off the air."
I can second that.
She's just a very funny person.
She is. I told her once she makes me laugh 3.5 times per day.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, her take on things is just. And so the whole so being on the air for 4 hours straight with contributions from those type of people and the other reporters that we have up and down the line makes it easy because they're so entertaining and they have just a great spin on things.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Jeff Brown joining us. I'm sorry, you had something.
I was just going to say, you behind the scenes, as the morning editor. That pulls the whole thing together.
I told Heather from Carlson and Mackenzie, our friends over there at the WZLX, where Heather informed Pete and Kevin that I am in charge of the morning show, and I said it's really you and I are in charge of the morning show at WBZ, but they were shocked by that. They said, "They let you run that thing?" and we just assumed Katie did it. Kate Gallagher.
They had to rethink their whole outlook on the radio.
She is the executive editor, but she's kind of more in charge of everything.
You know what's weird about where we work? iHeart.
A lot of things.
Yeah, well, that is a lot of things. But iHeartMedia is the parent company, and this is the largest media company in the world. And we have this entire floor in our studios, and half of the floor is dedicated to our station. The rest is for the other 4 or 5 stations that we have, and the sales department. Yeah, that's down the hall and across the way. there are very few people I come in contact with the other, so there are people in the hallway that they'll say hello, and I'm like, hey, you.
There's like a legit, I remember people saying this to me when I was young too, how intimidating it is walking into a newsroom. And I think people still feel that way. I don't know why. Like, I definitely, Soldiers Field had that when we used to be in Brighton. I think just you're going into the TV and radio newsroom,
right? A
lot of busy people,
right.
I don't know if it's the same feel, but I think it kind of is. I think if you're young walking into a newsroom,
I think that if you have a healthy respect for the industry, that you still look at people who are doing. And Boston's a major market, so you have to. I mean, you understand that the people who are in Boston are very talented people.
Yeah.
And so your respect for that is a little intimidating in and of itself. So when you see these people, and you're like, you've watched or you've heard these people, and then you realize that they're just everyday, down-to-earth people.
Yeah.
And you're among them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's fun.
It's pretty cool.
The one of my favorite moments from COVID, speaking of the space that we have.
Favorite moments of COVID.
Yes. Ooh, I like that. It's a new segment. Favorite moments of COVID. But one of my favorite moments was when it was, I think even like the guy, we have great master control people too, that like, I always say, I pretty much do anything there.
Yeah.
On the air, off the air, I can kind of, if anything were to break, I'm pretty good with most things. That's like the one thing, if things were going, I'm not 100% sure I could, like, they do a lot of things, multitasking. Master control people only get, it's like one of those jobs, it's like a bad referee or something. You only get talked about.
That's right.
If you mess up.
That is correct.
If something goes wrong, and they're great. But I think that person had like gone away for a second. It was literally you and I. And reporters weren't coming in, writers were writing from home. COVID changed everything. And you come out of the studio and you look at me, he goes, Drew, it strikes me that in one of the biggest markets in the United States here for news, it is you and I.
It was so weird. It was so strange because in the early days, I mean, they didn't want anybody within, 6 feet of separation, but I mean, they didn't want anybody in the same facility.
Yeah.
And so there was a time that it was you and me, the only two people who were actually in the station at any given time in the morning. But the thing that I don't think a lot of people realize is that what they hear on the radio from not only WBZ but every radio station, what makes it good and makes it come alive is the people behind the scenes, the people who are not on the air.
Yeah.
And so when you reference master control and you reference the writers and all those people there, that's the whole bells and whistles to the whole thing. That's what makes it shine. Because without that, I don't know if it was truly you and me. We'd have been long gone. Long gone.
That is true. Yeah, some of our writers are still writing from home. It's kind of like every business, right? They find new ways to do things.
We've changed. Favorite moments of COVID. I like that.
Favorite moments of COVID. Buy your T-shirt now. Jeff Brown, WBZ morning anchor, joining us here, talking some stories. When I bring up somebody who's been in that chair within the last few months, Diane Stern. What comes to mind on Diane?
Diane, she's a pro.
Yeah.
She's a pro. And, I will tell you that I like to keep it light in the newsroom.
Yeah.
I don't want to say stir the pot, but I like to poke the bear. Let's just say that.
Yeah. What's the difference between those two things?
Well, I think sometimes when you're stirring the pot, you're trying to do it for nefarious reasons. And I think when you're poking the bear, you're just trying to get a reaction.
Okay.
And I will tell you that Diane she did her job exceptionally. She's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Come on. And she was there for 35 years and did her job flawlessly throughout. She was the toughest nut in that newsroom to crack because I would play pranks on her all the time. And one of my greatest early triumphs at WBZ was when I got her to when I made her laugh, or when she just gave me the look like. That would always get. So that was a major accomplishment on the part.
I believe that. I think, what was that story you told me? You literally prank called her.
I did.
And that was the first time you got her to laugh.
Well, exactly. And she was literally right across the newsroom, and we had separate extensions, and I called, and she picked up the phone, and I said something, and she was obviously disgusted, but it got a laugh in the newsroom, and that's all. That's really the whole point.
She always had this way, like she was very serious, obviously.
Oh yeah,
but it was serious when she had to be, though. It was like she knew when it was work time, and like if she would have no problem telling somebody, "Hey, quiet.
Yeah, well, exactly. Oh, I remember those days.
Yeah.
But talk about intimidation. I mean, that was. She's not going to hear this, is she?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I hear she's a big listener.
I mean, I think it was all. I mean, I was kind of intimidated when I first walked in, and I had been in Boston radio for 20 plus years. So I knew a lot of the people just by association at BZ in the newsroom, but still to meet them at first and, get to know them, that's kind of intimidating too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you're right.
I think I got over that.
Well, you have to, right? And that,
you do.
I remember she actually had that surprise thing. I told her this. I said, I don't even know if you remember this, Diane, but when Anthony Silva, who was her on-air partner there, they were the afternoon drive team for I don't know how many years.
Decades.
Yeah. They kind of were together almost the whole time, I think. And she and Anthony left first. And Anthony kind of surprised me. I didn't quite see it coming. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but he just one day said, it's coming, a couple weeks. And I said, wow, all right. And then Diane said, it's funny, everybody's looking at me now. And and I said, I don't even know if you remember you saying this. And Diane said, she goes, everybody's looking at me and I am not there yet. Like I am not. I feel like I got a lot left. And then same thing happened with her, like a year later, just abruptly,
It's funny how it happens, I think. And like I said, I never thought about it until my wife decided to make that move. And, you start thinking about it, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So
well, you better not be there yet.
You're not getting rid of me anytime soon. I don't think you're getting rid of me anytime soon. Who knows? But.
So you mentioned Gary. I always think back to that team of, we work with Carl Stevens too. He's still working with us at WBZ. And he tells me all these stories about, Gary and Gil Santos, and that I hear there was smoking in the newsroom allowed at one point. That's a different day and age, right?
It really is. Yeah, but I think that even the stuff, even the stories that you hear about the time gone by at BZ, to know what the camaraderie was like in that newsroom. I mean, you had Tom Bergeron worked there for years.
He ended up all right.
Hollywood Squares, Dancing with the Stars, But the behind the scenes stuff, the chemistry, and how they talk about chemistry in ball clubs, and that like the Bruins have great chemistry this year, and that's why they're so successful.
No idea what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's why BZ was so successful all those years, and continues to be, because people genuinely have a respect for what they do, with who they work for, and who they work with, and who they work for. Yeah. And so I think that carries over. But
I kind of had that because I was lucky. That's my first job out of college. I interned there in college. Did you know that?
That was no, I did not.
Yeah, my junior year.
You and I should talk more.
We should.
We should get to know each other.
It's great. Junior year in college. I have a very funny story of, I think we pay all interns now. I think there's rules about that. Back in the day, not only did they not pay the interns, but I had to do it for a college course, which was standard at that time. That's how you kind of got rewarded. And I didn't need any more of the college courses. I had already done them for my junior year.
So wait, so you paid?
So
you paid to go to work?
I asked the head of the communications department at Bryant, and I said, what do you think I should do? She's like, I think you should pay for the course and do the internship. It's invaluable, those internships. And I said, okay. And there's nowhere that credit can go? No. So I paid to work at WBZ.
That's great. That is a good story.
Yeah, so I think I might be the only one. But didn't get anything for it. But of course I got something for it.
See, you got work experience.
I do tell people that's the best move I ever made was interning, because I don't think people remember. Did you ever intern anywhere?
No, because you know why? Because I went to school at UMass Amherst, and that's a small enough market that you can, if you're willing to, you can do almost anything you want at that time at a small radio station. Yeah, and those times have changed. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. But
so you did the college radio.
Right. I had an internship opportunity, but then I turned that down because I got a job in small market, and that's how there were two paths to take at that point. And,
Yeah, the interning thing is I tell people all the time, if you do it, it's not. I don't think they really remember the work you do. I really don't. I think they just remembered he was helpful in a team play, and then eventually you have to prove yourself.
Right.
But I think they just remember he was good to be around, team player. I think that's because there's no way people remembered what I did.
That is true. Because I think they make it up as you go along. I mean,
true.
Really.
And it changes.
Move those record, dust the turntable, move the record over there.
Yeah. I used to get breakfast.
But breakfast time. It's all. It's.
We made a song about it. That's right.
Yeah, no, it's just a different industry than it once was, like everything else. But it's when you live through all these changes, you look back and it's like I cannot. On one hand, it's like you say back, a few decades ago, like 30 years ago, it's like I have no idea why we did the things we did.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's like, wasn't it cool that we used to do stuff like this and we don't do that anymore?
Yes.
So
No, you're right. I think, but you know where I was going with that other story before I got derailed was the by myself. I like seeing now. I used to be the kid at the station. Intern hired there. Now I'm not the kid anymore. There's a lot of people younger than me now. It's cool to see how they kind of gel with. It all just works in this magical way.
Yeah, it's when I was coming up, one of the longest relationships that I've had in radio is with one of the other BZ alums, Rod Fritz.
Oh yeah.
And it struck me that I met him when I was in college, and he came out and he spoke to our class or to the radio station or something out there. But
did he take a train?
He may have taken a train. That's a separate story. But but he and I had known each other for almost 40 years, and I remember when I first got my feet wet in Boston radio, again, large market. I looked up to people like Rod because it was amazing to me how he knew literally everyone in Boston radio. And so I was just amazed at how many contacts he had. And 30 years later, I remember saying to him, Rod, I remember, those days when I, thought that you knew there wasn't anybody you didn't know. I have become you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you stay in one industry, and it's a small industry.
It is. No doubt about that. Yeah, Rod was that. The train story is we both were away at the same time.
Right.
I was in Costa Rica. Rod was in Florida.
Yeah.
My flight, I had to fly to Florida to get back to Boston, and there was a big snowstorm. So I'm in Costa Rica the morning of the snowstorm, or maybe it had been snowing for a couple of days, but it was still snowing that day. And I look, and every single, whatever it was, JetBlue, I don't know, probably not JetBlue, but whatever it was, every single flight was canceled up until mine at 11:59 p.m. or whatever.
So you got out.
So the trouble was the Florida to Boston flight.
Yeah.
So I kept looking. I was like, oh, we're going to have to look at hotels in Florida maybe because, I might get stuck there. We end up landed in Florida. We hustle over to the gate. I look at the board. It still says it's on. It's going out. There's no plane there. So I go to the desk. I go, is this plane actually leaving? He goes, probably not at 11:59, but we plan on this plane taking off.
Nice.
I go, fantastic. Like a half hour later, plane comes. Half hour behind schedule we went. I landed Boston. Pretty flawless. Rod was stuck in Florida for like days. And then got so upset about being stuck in Florida that him and whoever else he was with, they just jumped on a train.
Worst mistake of his life, from what I hear.
Coming up the East Coast. So there was as you can imagine, Rod got bored with that. And then every time we would see Rod, I had been home for 4 days, I think, by the time he got back. And every time we would walk into the newsroom, we would play the beginning of Allentown.
Right.
With
choo choo. Oh, that was good stuff.
Yeah.
And Rod was a perfect foil for that too, because he would pretend that he was annoyed.
Yes.
But he knew just how funny.
Except for those couple times when he was actually.
Well, when he was actually annoyed, exactly. And you knew that too. You knew when you would push the line. Anyway, it's good times.
Oh man, that was hilarious. But Jeff Brown joining us here, the WBZ morning news anchor in Boston. The studios are actually in Medford now. What's the biggest change for you there? Just not for me. It's just not seeing the TV people.
Well, yes, but it's also that it shaves a good, 20 minutes off the drive, right?
Yeah, we're North Shore guys.
So because we're North Shore, and it's used to take me the better part of I want to say like 40 minutes to get to work. Now it's 20 minutes, depending if you hit the lights, maybe 15.
You know what's funny about that though? You do the you drove in, you've done the Boston thing longer than I did as far as work goes, but I actually kind of miss the nostalgia of I just remember as a kid I was like driving into Boston. I used to love driving over the Tobin and seeing the skyline.
Yep.
And I remember thinking like it'll be really cool to like work in the city someday.
Yeah.
And I like that drive.
It does get old if you're doing it during rush hour.
That romanticism is gone for you.
But if you drive in at 3:00 in the morning, it's fantastic. That's a great ride.
Yeah.
You gotta love it.
I just like it. I don't know. I like the lights and the.
Yep. No, I know what you mean.
The city, I always enjoyed that. But Medford's great too. Yeah. You got the new studios, souped up studios. These are pretty good studios.
This is nice. I was impressed.
Newburyport knows we know what we're doing here.
I like
NCM Hub.
It's very nice.
Built it myself.
Very nice. I like the wall color.
Steve Dennis has started a thing on the wall here. Jacob McCurdy has now added to it. Stickers are starting to go on the.
I don't have a sticker.
You don't have a sticker.
I don't have a sticker.
You gonna work on that now?
No, listen. I had some advance notice. I might have come up with a sticker.
Yeah,
but,
you did have advance notice.
I
you
just didn't know what you were talking about.
That would be a half listen there from Jeff. Oh man, what's the people always ask me about the because I remember back in the olden days I used to come to work at 2 a.m. The old editors used to come in at midnight. Wild. But they ask about the early hours. They ever get to you? You're up before everybody else.
Yeah, no, I actually like that about the job because I always feel like I'm like at least one step ahead of everybody else. But the fact of the matter is you're always tired.
Yeah.
And I don't have the discipline to put myself to bed every night, and so. And so that's therefore why I'm tired. So when you go to bed at 9:30, you're getting maybe 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And I try and cat nap during the day, but I don't do anything at night because then I become cranky. I need my binky. And Friday nights are just out of the question too. So I just don't. That's the lifestyle, and I'm old enough to realize that this is where you want to be. When you're in radio,
ahead of everybody else, getting the day started and
morning hours.
Because we got to get up for people who drive to work at normal hours. That's right. That's what people don't understand. I remember my grandmother saying to me, "Are you going to get promoted to some normal hours?"
The same thing happened to me. Same thing happened to me. And this is exactly, and this business is as odd as this is where you want to be. But in the summertime, when your workday is done at 11, see ya, sucker.
You will find you floating in the pool.
There you go. It's nothing.
What do you call it again? You got
the what?
Don't you have a nickname for your pool?
Lake Mitten. Yeah.
Why does that come from again?
The only thing I can imagine is that I had a dream one night that that was an offshoot of that was the name of my house, and then it just transferred itself to the pool being Lake Mitten, and that's how it came about. And,
bizarre.
Yeah, and so it stuck. It is bizarre. I don't know where I come up with half of this stuff anyway.
Yeah, you walked into the newsroom one day and you said Saint Arbucks, and I said what? Oh, he's referring to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I am an acquired taste, I imagine.
You once walked in. We were once in a Starbucks together, and you saw me and decided to text me and didn't say hello to me in person.
Well, it's. Yeah, but see, you tell half the story.
Well, that's the part I remember.
It was the Danvers Peabody or Danvers?
I think it's Peabody, technically. Right on the line.
It's on the line. It's on 114.
Yeah.
And you at the time were living in Hudson.
That is true.
And so I didn't know you all that well at the time. And there's a guy that looks like Drew. As he walks out the door, I said, well, I'll text Drew and find out if it was in fact him.
I've been told I have a very distinctive look.
You do. But I was, I wasn't sure. You don't know. In fact, just the other day I saw your doppelganger there.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually me again. But
well, maybe you'll get the hint.
That's good. I think we're doing good. I heard Sarah laugh from the studio room. That's good. It's always, again, Sarah Blackstone running the ship today here in Newburyport, our small but mighty team. Sarah Hayden somewhere around doing good work. Hello, Sarah.
Can I get your opinion on something?
No. Sure. What?
This is a relatively new thing for me.
Oh, I like it.
You like it?
I like it, yeah.
Do I look learned?
Yeah. I think.
Or do I look like a cab driver?
No, I didn't think cab driver until now. Now I'm thinking about it. No, I like it. It's good. The all black look. I'm a fan of the all black look myself.
Thank you.
Except I find we both have dogs. Henry is really shedding in the wintertime. So yesterday I wore black, and I was like, I feel like I can't do it anymore.
You can't. You can't get away. You have two dogs. I have one dog, and especially if they have white fur.
Yeah.
You can't get away with it. And when you're new dog owners, you try and keep up with it all the time. Like you always carry one of those sticky rolls where you're and you're always doing this. But after that gets old, and so you're just like, you know what? I look like I'm wearing a dog. That's that's just the way it is.
We mostly use the smaller car to travel with the dogs because it's just easier for the old guy to jump in. So that back seat is now just I don't know if I would ever actually have humans in there anymore. It's kind
In
of
the back seat,
It's just it's I got a blanket and everything, but it's just
too much work. You know, you gotta. Why don't you drive tonight?
Exactly. Yeah. Although Henry, I can't even get in the car anymore. He's not jumping up.
Yeah, it's sad when you get old, isn't it?
He can do it though. He's choosing.
He needs to be pampered. Yeah, I think so. You got to take care of him.
I take care of him. He has his way. Big guys.
They do, don't they?
They do. They have a way of getting their way. Jeff Brown in the house. What is your Deb Lawler's another name I wanted to throw at you. She, I know I got to work with her a lot. You and you were just talking about sleep schedules.
Yeah.
Deb was the person that would tell me. I remember people giving you hints. This is what you should do. Try to stay to a routine. Try to go to bed at this every night. And I was like, that's going to be hard for me. And Deb Joe's, don't listen to any of it. When you're tired, sleep.
That's the I was going to say that's the biggest piece of advice, the best piece of advice that she gave me.
Yeah.
She said, if you're tired, sleep.
Yeah.
So
she had a very practical way of things.
Well, exactly. And it's like, so if it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you're tired, take a nap.
Yeah.
You know, if you need 2 naps, she said, I'm going to take 2 naps.
Yeah.
So, but the cat nap is fantastic. If you can master the 20-minute nap, you're living large.
El gato.
The cat.
We have this weird thing.
Wait, stop. Okay. The guy on the wall there, Gatto Barbieri.
I do not know Gatto. I've never noticed that. What eyes out of you?
See? Look at that.
I think he pronounces it that way.
How else do you pronounce it? Gato, I suppose, but I don't know.
Sarah Hayden, I bet she's probably cringing right now that we're getting this possibly wrong.
Yeah.
Gatto. That was derived of a nickname for a coworker that had a typo in a newspaper.
Yeah, typo, right. It just became, and it stuck. It was isn't that funny how that happens where it just, nicknames just stick.
And things happen in the newsroom. I think you asked, should we go with Gatto? That wasn't the name, but and then I think somebody, maybe me, yelled the cat, and then every time the word is said now, that's what we do.
The other one has to come up, right? Yeah. Exactly.
There's also I know you have morning rituals. You like to drop a hockey puck to get the day started.
Yes, a literal hockey puck.
Yeah,
and
people are not going to understand a lot of these things.
We're just so anyway. So I just felt that there should be some fanfare when just before to work out. As you well know, I sometimes get the pre-newscast jitters in the morning, but it's healthy.
Yeah.
So you want to have some fanfare, and I thought originally that how Major League Baseball players have walk-up music. I said, well, that'll be, maybe we'll do a walk-up, and I think the Springsteen.
We did Adam
Raised a Cane was my walk-up music. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you stopped playing that. So we had to come on to something else. I said, you know what? A puck drop. That's what we'll do. Yep. It's turned into a puck slam, which just gets everybody's attention.
Well, that's what the refs do. They snap that puck, as we learned. We went to an actual referee.
Yeah, that's right. We got some lessons on it. I don't think we've mastered it yet, but it's
Katie's in charge. Katie Gallagher.
It's coming along. So that's how we kick off the day. Behind the scenes. And if we could have cameras in the newsroom at WBZ, I think it would be enlightening, and I think it would be
a reality
it would
show.
be horrifying.
Yeah.
No, it's but we do. I mean, it's like the thing about it is that what we're doing on the air is a show. It's for entertainment, whether it's news, it's sports, it's music, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's for entertainment purposes. It's a serious job.
Yeah.
But you gotta. But the camaraderie in the workforce is just like any place else.
Yeah. I find if you can't have fun behind the scenes, and I mean, it's just it translates.
If you're getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and not having fun, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that is well said.
Yeah.
The pre-newscast jitter. So I mentioned that on that other station I was talking to you about, Carlson and McKenzie, one day, and they were shocked to hear that you have pre-newscast jitters.
Really?
Yeah. They were like, Jeff, like what? And I was like, yeah, he says it like at least once a week, like probably more. Like he goes on, he says he's got these pre-newscast jitters, and I'm like, it's not like it translates. It's whatever he's feeling. He's gonna work something out when he goes in. Right. And but they just couldn't get their heads around it.
Really?
Like, that is not a man who sounds like he has any. I'm like, again, it doesn't translate, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like it's like I said, if you're doing any public speaking or you're doing something that should be should be a whole lot inspiring and a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
That's a good balance to have, because if you take what you're doing for granted, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to make a fool of yourself, and you don't want to do either of those. And so you have to have that respect for what the microphone represents.
Yeah.
Here at WBZ, at any outlet in the world, if you don't respect what you're doing, you're not going to do a good job at it.
That's one for the kids out there.
Yeah.
It's funny because you kind of, and I'm just hitting me now, you kind of have the opposite Diane Stern. Diane Stern would start serious and would come back down to when she was comfortable.
A little bit, yeah.
You kind of you can be the, I don't want to say goofball in a weird way, but you have you can make the newsroom laugh. But I have seen you go serious if somebody's leave me alone.
I've had my moments.
I gotta focus. Can you just stop?
Yeah. I have my moments, but everybody does, right? I mean,
Sure.
so it's just
But yeah, not in the bad way.
I'm gruff but lovable.
Well, it's just that's just the respect of the microphone thing. Where you got to get to that point.
Exactly. I mean, that's really what it's about, because for me, it's you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. What is your best radio advice you ever received? Or career advice. It doesn't have to be
career advice. I will tell you this, because when I got, I've been fortunate enough to only be laid off once in this business, and that is fortunate.
It's a low number,
fortunate in this business.
I've already been laid off once.
You have?
Not from BZ, but from there was a station before this in Newburyport. They called me on a. That's how I got into Newburyport. The station down the street, Bloomberg now owns it. But they called me on a Tuesday and said, Saturday, gonna be your last show.
Yeah, that's it.
I said, oh, well, all right.
That's good to know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's good to know.
So anyway.
So we've all been through that to some degree or another in this business. And the best piece of advice I got was when I was looking for a job, when I was in between jobs, between my old job and the current one at WBZ, I had lunch with an old TV news director, Peter Brown.
I know Peter.
Who said to me that, because he got out of the business, and he said to me that if it's not out of your system, don't leave it. And that's all I needed to hear, because it wasn't. It's something that is in your system, and if you have that hunger, it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And it was still there, and it was still a pretty strong pull. So, I was kicking tires on different things and trying to go in different avenues. And that was the advice that stopped me in my tracks, literally stopped me in my tracks.
And here you are.
And and here it is. You're not getting rid of me yet.
Thank you, Peter Brown.
Yeah.
Good guy, Peter Brown.
Yep.
The
no relation, by the way.
Right. Yes. There are more than.
I should say that.
There are more Browns in the world than. Same spelling.
Correct.
What did you say earlier to Sarah?
She was asking for the spelling of my first name,
because there are weird things. You want to make sure.
I said it's Jeff, and I said the second F is silent.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's the first F, but it is and it's a common.
It's a funny
spelling.
guy. Funny guy. I think she looked at you and said,
Do we really have to have him on today, Drew? Is there anybody else?
As I look at the Steve Dennis sticker again, he also mentioned he likes our video. I've been getting a lot of good feedback. I also get some bad feedback. Some people are just downright mean.
Well, they're haters out there. I mean,
trolls.
Right?
I think we call them in that business.
That's right.
But those things do very well. People enjoy our
yeah, and I don't remember how that came about, except that we wanted to be more multimedia at one point, and we just started goofing around with it. And
we thought, I like you and us. You, me,
and some of the exchanges, I mean, that we have are, and it's not forced by any stretch of the imagination.
Actually, we have tried to not stage, but we said, hey, maybe we could talk about that topic we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And we've tried to do that before, and you've looked at me and go, it's not going anywhere.
I have no idea what we're doing.
We can't practice it.
But so it's so I mean, we'll take just inane subjects and do a little riff on them, like everybody does online.
Yeah.
But it's harder than it looks. It's harder than it looks. I mean, it's just you're trying to entertain people in 30 seconds or less, and that's a tough thing.
Yeah.
But
it's glad to hear we're getting there some days.
We'll work on
it. Jeff Brown, final moments here with him, the WBZ news anchor here, telling some stories. What is when you think about like the big stories, was there one that you felt like the weight of over the years?
Oh man. Oh well, yeah. It had to be the the marathon bombings.
Yeah.
It was 10 years ago this year, by the way.
Crazy. That feels like yesterday to me.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And in fact, I will tell you that I was the year that happened. I happened to be on Sanibel Island.
That is right. I forgot about that.
And I remember, just sitting there enjoying life, and then I happened to listen into the radio station and heard the report that there was an explosion at the finish line, and then the second explosion, and then before you knew it, at first I'm thinking, Transformer, one of those things, and then it just got worse and worse and worse, to the point that our boss at the time had called me on my last day of vacation and wanted to know what time I was going to be home.
Yeah.
And he said, good, because I'm going to need you to handle a show Friday night to wrap up the week. That never became necessary because that's when Tamerlan and his brother got into the shootout in Watertown.
Yeah.
And that was an incredible. You say when you're in the news industry, and we'll do this, every time that a snowstorm happens, your adrenaline goes higher, and your level of interest in what you're doing reaches an apex. That entire week, you were running on fumes, and it was, from a news perspective, it was something that you will never forget.
I can almost remember every morning, afternoon, every moment through that. Some nights we weren't even going home.
It was long days, short nights, and when you did have some time off, you were thinking about what was going on. And I remember, there was some point that we had to be issued something from the governor that allowed us to be on the roads.
Because people think COVID was a lockdown.
This was the first one, right? Because this was it was called a shelter in place.
Right.
Nobody really was familiar with that term, and that nobody was supposed to be on the road. So every time that the media were driving on the road, you were at risk of being pulled over or stopped by, at any checkpoint.
I got stopped twice, I remember.
I did not. I never did, but I always had that piece of paper in my car that, would theoretically, from the governor, I think, Deval Patrick at the time, that would have allowed me to go on to my destination.
National Guard troops on the street.
I'm sure that would have not been an easy pass-through, but, you got to do what you got to do.
Because I had that experience of living in Brighton in those days. So I was actually in the city, and I was at the marathon. I was in Kenmore. So I learned. Did you learn first to listen from the radio?
Yes.
At Sanibel? So you just happened to tune in?
I just happened to tune in, and that's when I heard that the first report that there was an explosion, and it just got worse and worse and worse from there.
So I was having a beer at Cornwall's in Kenmore Square, waiting for friends to join us and go hang out and watch the marathon. It was a little tradition we do. And I looked up at the TV and I saw nobody else noticing.
No.
That was my first look. So suddenly, within a couple minutes, the mood completely changes. Party mode is no longer. But then you walk out on the street, and I remember we had friends at the finish line. So one of the explosions at the finish line, we wanted to go see. My wife's sister was at the finish line. We were worried, so we just started walking in that direction. Those worlds were crazy because you had the college kids outside partying with the kegs, and they didn't know yet. There's no TV.
Right.
You couldn't hear the blast.
Yep.
So it's like then you see people starting to run back, crying, who had got we're running the race, and you had to turn around. And then it's like you start to see those worlds. That was I'll never forget that experience.
There is
crazy.
If there's do we have time for one more?
Sure.
So this goes back to when I was in college, and this is a completely different world at that point. The Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. I was working at the school radio station at UMass Amherst, WMUA. And the shuttle exploded.
Yeah.
And, TVs are not everywhere. You certainly don't have smartphones. You have nothing. All we had was the ticker that the Associated Press provided that would constantly spit out paper all day long, and it would ring off bells every time something was going. That thing was going nuts.
Yeah.
Couldn't keep up with it. So I find that, the print comes out, and if the ink wasn't there, you're straining to see what it says, and the space shuttle has exploded. I'm like, so I ran to find the nearest TV, which was across the Student Union Hall.
Wow.
And that's when it became apparent that we had a big problem.
Oh man.
Yep.
Wow. What a story that is.
And that's, today it's just like, you look at your phone and there it is, but it's different world.
Yeah, it is. I remember our current boss is still with us at WBZ, Bill Flaherty. I remember him because the lockdown in Boston thing was they eventually lifted it. I think on that Friday night. Does that ring up?
Well, right, because I think once it all came to a head, I think that.
Well, no, they thought they lifted it before though, because remember they thought they were in New York. I think was the deal.
Yeah.
Because the city had opened up when they were back out there. Because I remember going to a Fleetwood Mac concert at Boston Garden when they were still loose.
Yeah.
And I think that is the story. I believe, if I remember reading that correctly, that they thought that they had gone to New York. So I go to the Fleetwood Mac show. I thought it was so weird. It was like, I just needed something. I've been up for like 2 straight days. Something just that's not newsworthy. Let's do something in the city. And it was a great show, but it was like weird. You could tell the vibe was weird. I remember Stevie Nicks not really mentioning much about it, except we just want you to know we love this city so much. It was very sweet. But great show. And then we were driving back that night, and that was the night that Sean Collier got shot.
Yep.
And I remember my girlfriend at the time, now wife, said to me, I bet it's them. And I'm like asleep in the car.
Wow.
And we were listening to BZ, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, and I was dozing off, and then went home right to sleep. I was exhausted. Next thing I know, Bill Flaherty calls me, Drew, turns out it was them. We're trying to get the band back together. I need everybody in. So I just instinctively get up, leave the house. I have this girlfriend in the house who's going to be sheltered in place with a roommate she barely knows. Yeah. I'm walking outside going, what am I doing?
And who knew just 7 years later, we'd be dealing with a pandemic.
Yes. There
Man.
you go. Another,
We have lived through some stuff.
we do some news stories, right? Yeah. The biggest story of our time, probably. I hope.
I'm right. I know, right?
Why do we even say something like that? Craziness. Well, this has been fun, Jeffrey.
Thank you for having me.
This is good. Well,
Appreciate
quick couple of 30 seconds of rapid fire real quickly. This is the first time in the studio, so this works. Favorite musician?
Elton John.
Favorite movie?
Pulp Fiction.
Favorite city in the world that's not Boston?
Chicago.
Oh, you're very good with the rapid fire. Favorite food?
Chicken parmesan. Yeah, chicken parm.
Favorite
I don't even look at the menu at an Italian restaurant. Chicken parm.
Every time?
The whole table.
I know
chicken
people
parm.
like that. That's funny.
Yep.
I do. I've learned to. I used to be like that. I've learned to branch out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
And all right. And maybe we should just end with the chicken parm. What is the one thing? We had a lot of kids that watch the show, middle schoolers and high schoolers. If they had to do one thing to make it, if they want to get into media, that's one thing. But one thing to make it in the career, what would you say?
Find something that you love and dedicate all you can to it. Research it. Just do all you can to make yourself a success.
Well said, Jeffrey.
Yep.
Always a pleasure. Love working with you.
Same here.
Thanks for coming to Newburyport.
Love it.
It's he has to leave. Jeff Brown, WBZ morning anchor. Thank you to Sarah Blackstone, Sarah Hayden, and our great team here at NCM Hub in Newburyport. My name is Drew Moholland. This has been Live at Drew's House, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Peace.